This is Duke University.
Thanks for coming out on a very, very beautiful day. I know it's our first gorgeous fall day, so I appreciate your actually coming inside for this. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Before Jessamyn Hatcher gives her talk today, I've asked Jim Wilkerson, who's the Director of Trademark Licensing and Duke University Storage Operations, to come and talk to us about a recent commitment to the Accord on Building and Fire Safety in Bangladesh. That not only has Duke signed on to, but Jim has been somebody who since 1998 has been working towards a number of agreements where Duke has been at the forefront. Very, very impressive work. It's painstaking, arduous work to hammer out these agreements, and since we have been leaders in this, that it would be very important to have Jim say a few words about what we have accomplished, and especially I wanted to make for all of us to acknowledge the hard work that Jim has done on behalf of our universities, and this university in particular. After his remarks, then I'll introduce Jessamyn and her talk today. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, Hillary. That's very kind. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank Hillary and Cathy for inviting me to speak today. I said Hillary, I meant Cathy.
That's fine. Everyone does it.
It's very nice to be here and a pleasure to meet Jessamyn as well. Duke University has long been a leader in the efforts to improve conditions for apparel workers around the world who sew collegiate apparel. When the global anti-sweatshop movement began more than 15 years ago, exposing the terrible conditions that workers around the world faced every day, Duke was at the forefront of the response, taking several important steps to address these abuses. We were the first school in the country to require companies producing Duke items to publicly disclose the names, locations, and contact information for factories that made our products, something that had never been done before. Duke was also the first university to develop a labor code of conduct to protect workers making collegiate product. This code requires compliance in a number of key areas, including wages and hours of work, overtime, child and forced labor, non-discrimination, harassment and abuse, associational rights, and health and safety. Using the Duke Code as a model, we also helped lead the effort to develop the Labor Code of Conduct for the Collegiate Licensing Company, a licensing agent that manages many university apparel contracts. And this code has been adopted by hundreds of schools across the country. After releasing our code, we were invited by the U.S. Department of Labor to join the Apparel Industry Partnership, a White House initiative, and the first national program aimed at enforcing these standards. And we were the first university board member and the only university to be an incorporator of the Fair Labor Association, a multi-stakeholder initiative tasked with monitoring compliance with labor codes of conduct. And for nearly a decade, Duke has served on the board of directors of the Worker Rights Consortium, the only independent labor rights monitoring organization in the world, and which has played a key role in protecting and defending workers' rights. Through our affiliation primarily with the Worker Rights Consortium, we receive detailed reports about conditions for workers sewing Duke clothing, and we take meaningful action when we learn of labor rights violations in our factories. When Russell Athletic closed one of their Honduran facilities in 2008, in retaliation for workers' efforts to form a union, Duke cut its contract with the company. This action by Duke, along with other universities, brought substantial pressure to bear on Russell, which ultimately signed a groundbreaking agreement to reopen the factory and rehire more than 1,800 workers who had been fired. We also cut contracts with Lands' End and the New Era Cap Company for similar violations over the years. In addition to our efforts to address individual factory level abuses, Duke has also sought to address the root causes of sweatshop labor, namely the supply chain practices of major brands and retailers. By constantly pressing factories and suppliers to slash prices and shorten delivery times, apparel companies are driving the global race to the bottom that forces factories to cut labor costs to the absolute minimum by pressuring workers to work long shifts at low pay under dangerous conditions. In order to help reverse these dynamics, Duke helped lead the development of an initiative called the Designated Suppliers Program, or DSP. Under the DSP, university apparel brands would be required to source from factories that pay a living wage and respect workers' rights, as outlined in collegiate codes of conduct. When the program's opponents raised legal objections in an effort to stall implementation, Duke helped secure the necessary approval from the U.S. Department of Justice, clearing the way for the program to move forward. It was a 6-year battle, with Department of Justice approval not coming until December of 2011. Duke also provided critical support for the Altagracia factory, the only apparel factory in the global South to pay its workers a living wage, respect their right to form an independent union of their choice, and comply with all other labor standards. Located in the Dominican Republic, Altagracia pays a living wage that is more than 3 times the country's legal minimum. This has made a tremendous impact on the lives of the workers and their families. I visited the Altagracia factory in 2010 and met with many of the workers there, and I saw firsthand the ways in which the increased wages had given them a more dignified standard of living. Many workers had begun to send their children to school for the first time, made improvements to their homes, installed indoor plumbing, or added additional rooms, while others used the money to pay off debts they had accumulated after living for so long in poverty. When the Altagracia factory opened, Duke Stores placed the first order with the factory, a $250,000 order that helped to get the new business off the ground, and we have since continued to heavily market the Altagracia products on campus. And to date, we've sold over $1.5 million worth in 3 years. We have also encouraged other universities to support the factory, and we have promoted Altagracia as a model for the rest of the industry to follow. Most recently, Duke has taken steps to address the growing safety crisis in Bangladesh, becoming the first university in the country to require its licensees to sign the Accord on Fire and Building Safety in Bangladesh. Over the past 7 years, more than 2,000 workers in Bangladesh have died in preventable fire and building disasters at factories producing primarily for the U.S. and European markets. Just 6 months ago, 1,133 workers were killed in the collapse of the Rana Plaza building, the deadliest accident in the history of the garment industry. Although the factories at Rana Plaza were not producing collegiate apparel, workers making Duke apparel in Bangladesh face similar risk. By requiring Duke licensees to sign this accord, we will minimize these risks and help ensure our clothing is made in factories that are safe. The accord is the first ever legally enforceable agreement in which brands, including our licensees, will be required to pay for renovations and repairs to their supplier factories. All factories covered by the accord will undergo independent and detailed building and electrical safety inspections, the results of which will be made public and workers will play a key role in safety management at their factories. The accord is an unprecedented agreement that has the potential to fundamentally transform the Bangladesh garment industry. And our new requirement will ensure that Duke licensees participate in this groundbreaking program. In the less than 2 weeks since Duke announced this requirement, 2 major university apparel brands, Adidas and Knights Apparel, have voluntarily already signed the accord, and we expect many others to follow. Finally, for the past 12 to 15 months, Duke has been working to stop companies from implementing the fast fashion strategy in the production of Duke apparel. We are denying more than 90% of the requests from companies to produce new designs and products that exceed the natural market demand. And we are greatly decreasing the number of companies we do business with and the distribution channels they are authorized to sell into. By doing so, we are combating the work faster and we'll pay you even less mentality that apparel companies force on factory workers and owners. Often led by American brands and retailers, these are the very supply chain practices that lead to abusive and unfair working conditions on the factory floor, as well as to lives of poverty for the workers. We believe that universities should be responsible global citizens and that we should use our leverage as trademark owners to make apparel factories just, fair, and safe workplaces. As we have done for more than 15 years, we will continue to play a leading role in efforts to end sweatshop labor and improve the lives of millions of workers around the world. Thank you very much.
Actually Hillary Culbertson at Haystack, who's a jack of all trades, who spotted after we were advertising Jessamyn's talk, this agreement that had been announced in the Duke newspaper, and suggested that we bring Jim here to talk about this. And I think it's really important that we think about the ways our critical thinking and our critical ideas and our cultural studies relates also to abilities to change in the world. And even if you can't change everything magically overnight, being inspired by people who are willing to just slog through things over and over and over and over again until change gets made. To me, it's incredibly inspiring. Critical thinking is great. Protest is great. We need those things. We also need people who are willing to just work through all of those problems in realistic ways. So Jim, thank you. It's really an honor to have you here.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.